Hello, I'm Joan Lyons. Welcome to my exhibition at the Stephen Bulger Gallery, which will be up until February 28th. The work in this exhibition represents, I think, 55 years of my practice. And I think what I need to say about it is that primarily there are probably 10 representatives of 10 individual bodies of work in the exhibition. Each one is kind of the result of a conceptual idea and a process coming together, because that's the way I work. It takes a while to find those, but they're really integral. And strangely enough, although I seldom use a small format camera and don't often make silver gelatin prints, the work is directly photographic. And because of my background as a printer and a printmaker and a painter, I slipped into photography through those media. I mean, I regard print and photography to be one thing. When I started doing this work in the late 60s and early 70s, the photo world wasn't interested in it, but it seemed logical to me because I think photography from its early years always was a combination of print and photography. You know, you had a negative and might make a gravure print or might make a salted paper print, etc. So I think that some of it is in the spirit of that early work. Also, you know, it's a little perverse. I was surrounded by a lot of photographers, and I think I was always questioning the limitation of that decisive moment or that full frame image, and wondering what else you can do. I suddenly realized one day that your eye is not necessary for the photographic process. All you need is a light sensitive surface. The earlier work, there was a lot of feminist content. And at the time, I think a number of women all over the country were exploring feminist ideas in art. What happens if, for instance, in this woman's portrait series, what happens if a woman explores images of women rather than a man? And these were the women's portrait series were really meant as archetypes rather than portraits of individual women, you know, working off sometimes historical models, sometimes other kinds of ideas. The prom piece, the dress, actually was the integration of an idea about printing, the fact that fabric has a mesh, and therefore one could print them as an offset lithograph without using a conventional halftone screen, just by using the built-in structure of the fabric itself. And I like that idea because I always saw connections between weaving and printing. That piece, by the way, was printed at Coach House Press. Stan was a printing mentor of mine. The latest series is called Domestic Accumulations. And I've lived in my house for over 60 years, and it's a big house full of stuff. I decided to focus in on the various accumulations and objects around me. These are two of the groups. One is a series of pinhole images, paper negatives that are digitally printed, and the other is a series of gravures. The Gynecologist first was a book, a small book called The Gynecologist, and it was the result of a lot of research about how women's bodies were historically seen by a male-dominated medical profession. So it's a combination of ancient representations of women and a contemporary doctor-patient interview that actually was based pretty much in fact.